Congratulations, Ian. We did it.
Barely.
Yeah, but we did it. And you made it happen. You saved Vale.
I'm sorry to break in, sir. Jen, I've been able to establish communications with your sister.
It's all right. Sorry, Jen. We'll talk more soon.
No problem.
Ian, I just heard. I can't believe it. You saved so many people. Word of the boat lift is spreading all over Kentaris. People understand now you're fighting for them.
The boat lift was Elisa's idea. I wasn't even sure it could be done. I'm just sorry we couldn't stop destruction of the town.
You did. Towns aren't buildings and roads, Ian. The people, they're Vale, and they'll remember what you did for them. At Jatil, fighting was heavy, but Roland's forces are falling back. They're being overwhelmed by local units all over the planet. We started pushing through to the capital. When can you be here?
By nightfall. We're in transit now.
We'll need your help. Roland's concentrated his remaining forces in the city. It's going to take everything we have. I'll talk to you when you get here.
We're getting ready for final descent. I've received a tactical upload from the Resistance. Steiner has units deployed all over the capital. The fighting's starting to heat up already. The Resistance requested we sweep some of the locations where Steiner's defenses are concentrated, verify targets, and take them out. I'll upload a map with some of the locations where they've run into trouble. Once you complete the mission, I'll have had time to coordinate with the Resistance to form a tactical overview. This is going to be tough, but we win here and it's over. Steiner has nowhere to retreat to. Good luck, sir.
Young Duke, I have never asked you. Have you ever fought in a city before?
Not like this one, Carl.
It's not like anything else. Mechs aren't built for city fighting. They're still the most powerful weapon on the field, but they're at a terrible disadvantage. Tactics need to be changed. Long-range weapons are often useless. Sensors can be blocked, the enemy can readily hide and overwhelm you. Concentrate on shorter-range weapons. If you use missiles, I recommend SRMs only. Watch your heat, particularly if the enemy deploys flamers. You may wish to use ECM and active radar only in limited bursts to conceal your position. And the worst thing you can do is let yourself get surrounded. If it happens, break off the attack and get some distance before you re-engage. Don't waste your time on taller buildings if they're in your way. It takes too long to bring them down. Use them to your advantage to trap your enemy.
What about jump jets?
It depends on building heights. I think you're better off without them, but they can be useful in areas with lower structures.
Well, I'll let you know how it went when I get back. Wish me luck.
You will make your own luck, young Duke. All you'll need, if you're careful.
Okay, so welcome back for the final episode of MechWarrior Vengeance. I will have some things to say other than about the game in this one because of some stuff that's been going on Battletech-wise, but of course I'll still be talking about this. But we're now finally coming into the end game here. We're moving into the capital city, taking out some strategic targets, and then finally making the final assault. So I'm just in here messing with my mechs, getting things ready to go, and then we'll be on our way. However, and also I wanted to apologize for the amount of time in between the last one and this one. I've gotten back to work, and I don't really have much time to do these, so doing them when I can. Right now I have a weekend off, so I'm getting a few things nailed out here.
Okay, Omega. The Resistance wants to set up
So,
the sector as a
in the
staging
last
area,
one...
but enemy forces have been too strong for them to
Wait
handle.
till this is done.
You've got approximate locations of enemy forces uploaded as nav points Alpha through Epsilon. Once you sweep the area and destroy the heavy defenses, the Resistance can start moving in.
Roger. Sweep and destroy all units at nav points. Any friendlies in the area?
Negative. Burn any mobile units you contact. Steiner's militarized the whole sector. The Resistance
Okay,
has a
there's
couple
still
of
radio
forward observer
communications
teams in
going
the
on,
area,
but at least
but
the
they're dug
little
in.
briefing part of
Good
it's
luck.
done. So in the last one I'd
Out.
mentioned about
Sensors
the
online. Weapons
Kickstarter
systems
for
online.
mercenaries
All
that
functioning
I'd gotten
systems
into right on day
nominal.
one very happily and all that. Well, then over the last month since that has come out and I have, been seeing what's been going on with it and everything else, I very quickly lost enthusiasm for it. Very quickly looked at what was going on with it and how Catalyst was handling it and decided they were not going to get my money. and I backed out and canceled. And I am neither ashamed nor disappointed by having done so. To me, a Kickstarter is helping a startup on something get a project off the ground. And in the case of BattleTech, what I was looking forward to was a product, long-standing product that I have loved that has had its down times and bad times and is trying to, get on its feet and expand and make new things. I wanted to help that out. Um, Within the month, they, I believe, passed $8 million and are, I believe, in the top 20 of all-time highest funded Kickstarters since the program began. And so the whole, I want to help out, this is something that is, struggling and I need to help out with, that is far and away not the case. There are more than enough people backing it, so they did not need my money. But at the same time, it's like, oh well, it's still a Kickstarter. I would like to, help out with it, and maybe get some rare things. I've seen other Kickstarters, the things people get between both Catalyst and the video games when they run them and things like that. And I see people get some, pretty interesting, cool stuff. I would like some interesting, cool stuff. I never get interesting, cool stuff. I will plop down some money for interesting, cool stuff. So the initial tier I was at was not a real high tier, but I put on some extras and bonuses and things like that. They got it up to, I believe my pledge was $400, maybe $500. And I had the money set aside, was going to, couldn't really afford it, but something I very much wanted to do, so I was going to. When all things were said and done, $500, I figured. And then I look at what they're releasing with the stretch goals and what's going on, and I'm looking at like, oh wow, you're at this tier. We will give you this source book, which you already have and have already paid for, and we will give you this novel, which you already have and have already paid for, and we will give you these Alpha Strike beta testing things that we're doing to get feedback on that you don't have access to a printer to and can't print out to use. And all of this other stuff that I'm like, wow, you sent me an entire file folder of absolutely useless crap that I can do nothing with. Thank you so much for that. Well, at least with the swag that is guaranteed that's in there, I'm looking at, oh yeah, and that list of things that I'm getting at this tier, this big, laundry list of stuff that's available, including the things you've already sent me because they're digital content. The only thing in that list I actually want is the 4-inch Mad Cat figure, which, no, I'm not spending that much money for a couple of PDFs and a 4-inch mini. So, I started to lose, that lost its appeal for me. And then I looked at one of the other things I was getting was this in-universe book with all of these extra add-on things that was like $200 for a pre-release purchase of it. And I'm like, at first I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound that bad. $200, look at all the stuff that comes with this book. And I'm like, wait a minute. I have the limited edition of McCulloch's 1776 that I bought in a museum gift shop that was drastically overpriced because it was raising money for the museum, and comes with just about as much extra stuff as a book, about just the same size as this one. They're charging $200 and something for, that I got for $80 overpriced markup in the gift shop. So yeah, again, no, I'm not paying that for that book. By the time everything was said and done with that and the stretch goals that I'm looking at, the final kicker for me was when they said, oh, when we reach this, and I can't remember which exactly one it was, this stretch goal, this many $1 million, we will release this one immediately for all backers to have access to. And then they did, and it's the free audio book of one of the original Grey Death trilogy novels that has already been available for free on YouTube for years. So you sent me an MP3 file of something I literally could already have just downloaded on YouTube and listened to on my phone. Done. Refund a clock. It is not a Kickstarter. They do not need your money. They know they're going to sell whatever the hell they make, and people are going to buy it and pay their ridiculous prices for it. It is nothing but a pre-order scheme. Almost everything you look at on it is, you can pre-order this force pack, you can pre-order that force pack, you can pre-order these maps and terrains that we're going to be releasing. Almost everything is just an early access pre-order. I'm sorry. I love Battletech. I love what Catalyst has done with it. I still will support the company. But to me, this was not a Kickstarter. This was a barely veiled money grab to try and scam people out of their money and give them crap that they're going to have access to anyway, probably for cheaper when all things are considered, because I'm even more glad I backed out now, looking at some people I know who made like $500 pledges, and depending on where they are getting slapped with about $125 to $150 in shipping and taxes for stuff that they're probably not going to get for a year. So no, I am very glad I backed out of it, and I will probably not even bother looking at any of the Catalyst Kickstarters going forward. I'm sorry, they are not Kickstarters. They are shameless money grabs and nothing else. I already give the company more than enough of my money. I'm not doing it through a quote-unquote Kickstarter for nothing. So, wanted to say that. Anybody that backed it, and if you are happy with it, good for you. For me, it is not at all what I think they were selling. It is not at all what it is supposed to be, and not at all what I wanted to give my money to. So they're not getting it. So that's it for that. I just had to say that because I got very, very angry by the time it was done. Like, no, this is not a Kickstarter. You do not need my money. You probably did not need anywhere near the amount of money you got. And what you're giving people as a quote-unquote thank you for all this money they're giving you is a joke. So, I'm done. That's it. No more.
Warning. Damage critical.
Well, right now, we're just in a city fight here. Kill the stuff before it kills you, take out the objective points, yada yada. It gets more intricate, more interesting as it goes.
Attack my target.
Roger. Copy. Roger.
Oh my god, will you die?
Okay, Control. Delta's clear.
Copy that.
This city's crawling with bad guys.
One half
Target's
point left to
destroyed.
go.
Target destroyed.
That's a kill.
Yeah, and as you see, again, we've got the, as I've pointed out in a few other missions, if you look at my health bars there on the lower right corner,
Roger. Roger. Copy.
find it
Over.
funny how all of a sudden, after not really being able to do much for so much of the game, these last couple of operations you're on, everything seems to be able to hit you right in your center torso and pretty much nowhere else. Because I think the other stuff, like the arms and legs I've taken, has been splash damage or area effect weapons, like SRMs and LRMs coming in and stuff. That any of the direct fire stuff. Oh, right in the center torso. Look at that.
Target is terminated.
Target dead.
Take out designated target.
Ooh, and
Roger.
Roger.
Copy. Over.
so once these are done, I will probably not next weekend, maybe the weekend after, because I still have the every other weekend having my kids scheduled, like being back at work and having almost no time available. I'll probably in 2 weeks start recording the Black Knight Legion voiceovers. I've already done the playthrough. I just have to do voiceovers, narration for it. when I get into that, I will start to talk a little bit about the issues I've been having trying to do the playthrough and voiceovers going forward for the Mercenaries expansion pack for this game, which is the one everybody loves, and I'm finding I don't enjoy it nearly as much as I remember enjoying it when I played it. I'm actually finding it extremely tedious and boring. So, yeah, I'll talk about that when I get into the next stage of this playthrough.
Hold position and the resistance will start moving teams in. I didn't expect it would be this tough. Castro has units deployed everywhere. The resistance would never have been able to move into the area if we hadn't taken care of those targets. Omega, forward. Move in and do a sweep. Support, see if you can salvage anything, but make it fast. We've got a staging base set up. Window 90 minutes contingent on no contact. Target.
No salvage
I've
except
got
an
reports
Alice,
coming in
which I
from
will
all over the
probably never
city.
use.
We're incurring heavy losses. Steiner forces are much heavier than anticipated. We're going to have to act quickly. I have requests for assistance from 2 locations where the resistance has units cut off. Roland's forces are heavy in both areas, and it's only a matter of time before both of them are wiped out. A lot of heavy fighting is concentrated around the university. Steiner set it up as a military HQ, and they're using it to coordinate attacks. It's heavily fortified, and the resistance can't concentrate the firepower they need to shut it down. I'll let you know if I get any information updates.
Ian, we got some forward observers near the palace perimeter. Steiner pretty much leveled the area in their initial attack, and there's no sign they've made any recovery efforts or even know what's there. Father's elite guard were stationed in that area. Their armory was underground. There are no signs it's been discovered. There was enough equipment in that armory to outfit 4 heavy lances, the best equipment we had. Carl should be able to salvage it. With that equipment, we could launch a direct assault on the palace and take Roland down. It could end the war quickly without all this destruction, all this bloodshed.
How can we get to it?
We can't. Yet. Roland has too many units stationed near the palace for a direct assault. But if we can pull some of them away, it should be possible.
Put your tactical commanders in touch with Elise. We'll try to form a plan.
I will. I know there must be a way.
There we go. Also going forward in this, sorry, I try not to talk over those bits of it. The end of the campaign things, yeah, but these parts not so much. Going forward, I will also get to talk a little bit about the difference between the game ending, or the possible game endings, and the canon ending of what happened on Centauri's 4. So that'll be a thing we can talk about going forward here as well. This one might have a small glitch in it. I don't believe so, but this was one I had to run a second time because the AI literally just shot past me and blew up one of the buildings for absolutely no reason the first time I played this. The second time I did nothing different and made it all the way through without any issues. So sometimes the AI just does dumb shit.
Once you get close, they'll fire a signal flare, and we'll send the evac helo in to pick them up. You'll need to provide fire support.
And it wasn't like they decided to take out the facility and targeted past me. They were shooting at me, hit me with everything else, and I believe it was an autocannon burst or an LRM burst or something, went right past without hitting me, hit the building behind me that I was supposed to be defending, and blew it up randomly with a stray shot. And I lost and had to do it again. But whatever, it's war. Shit happens.
Sensors online. Weapons systems online. All functioning systems nominal.
Also, I'm sorry if you hear a creaking noise. I'm hearing it through my speaker. It's for some reason my cord, when I move my head, where it bends in and out of the headset, is making a creak. I don't know if that's getting picked up. If it is, I apologize for it. I know it's bothering me, but I'm not sure if you guys are hearing it. If anybody's even watching this, to be fair.
Delta reached.
This is Omega Lead. Nav Delta looks negative. Continuing search.
Roger, Omega Lead.
Well, at least the stupid shadow cats aren't doing the pop up and shoot back down 5 times before moving thing, like they do out in the open. God, you die.
Target destroyed.
I don't think I had any of these missions where I got killed. I just had 1 or 2 where for some reason all of a sudden the objective was unattainable. Because random AI. Not really random, but you know what I mean. Stuff happens that just makes no sense sometimes.
Target destroyed.
I know the next time I play this for fun, not recording it, I am turning off splash damage because I'm so tired of watching every single mech when it falls over take out half a city block with the secondary explosion. The fun of doing these where you have to go up and down roads and turn and can't really take shortcuts in a mech that, yeah, is moving at full speed at 56 kilometers an hour right now. But that's what you get when you get into assault mechs. Even clan assaults usually are not all that fast. This is another one that bugs me, that you can't really do most of the good canon TRO builds of the Daishi slash Direwolf in this game because the way they have the hard points set up, they don't work. They can't take the weapons. I understand, as I've said before, I understand why they have it like that, because it was to remedy a problem they'd had in the online or multiplayer version of MechWarrior 3, but yeah, it's annoying. The issue they'd had, I can't remember if I really explained it or just kind of alluded to it. They'd in MechWarrior 3, which was set up more of the tabletop type of game, people figured out there were a couple of mechs like the Shadow Cat that you could pretty much fill every hard point with small lasers or medium lasers or whatever the actual build was, and like kill almost anything with one alpha strike if you got close enough, and just hope you survived overheating, basically. But yeah, it was like people were like, hey, let's look at the Nova, the Blackhawk that's got, 12 ER medium lasers. That thing's absolutely devastating. What if we took something a little bit bigger and a hell of a lot faster and slapped even more lasers on it? Which, yeah, for a trial mech or something, it's not unheard of to have seen something like that. But when everybody in the game figures out that little, life hack, if you want to call it that, the game got unplayably boring because everybody was doing it. And it kind of ruined, like, basically on its own, things like that killed the multiplayer of MechWarrior 3, because nobody, you could not get into a match without at least half of the people playing those stupid, overpowered, broken builds. also, I've got the time. Uh, I've kind of got a rebuttal to something that was in the most recent Black Pants Legion podcast, which I don't necessarily disagree with what Tex said in answer to a question. Technically he's right. He's not at all wrong. Um, but I also, like as an in-universe kind of devil's advocate kind of thing, I do think there is an argument against what he said, but again, not saying he's wrong, just you can have another perspective of it. So basically, somebody had asked why there are scout and recon mechs in Battletech
Control. No
when
contact
there
out
are
of Thorn.
things like
They must be somewhere else.
spy satellites and reconnaissance aircraft and drones. Wouldn't that negate needing them? And he said basically, well, it's rule of cool. It's battle mechs running around and scouting and spotting. Yeah, you wouldn't really need them. Satellites would be able to do it all. And then went into a talk about what satellites would be like and yada yada. And he's not wrong. Uh, what he said, I agree with what he said. I'm not. Oh, you're fuck you, Tex. You're wrong. I'm not going that route at all. But I was a tanker in the army. I am somebody who is a historian and reenactor that focuses on cavalry and armor is my favorite part of the army in history. So from that perspective, I will argue against your answer to that and say we have all that now, and we still have cavalry and scouts and recon. Uh, Satellites fail, satellites go down, reconnaissance aircraft get shot down, photo analysis and all that other stuff can be fooled. People are fallible, computers make mistakes. You need eyes on the ground and people actually looking at an objective and keeping an eye on it to ensure that what you think is where it actually is, and what they're supposedly doing is what they're actually doing, and all that stuff. If you're getting strategic reconnaissance, yes, satellites, recon aircraft, UAVs, all of which exist in Battletech as they do now, yeah, that's where you would see things like that. But on a tactical, fast-moving, ever-shifting battlefield, you would need reconnaissance mechs, just like you need reconnaissance now. Everybody knows the Army tankers, the 19 kilos, what I was. Everybody forgets or doesn't even know if they have, they don't even forget, they never even knew in some cases. The Army also has what's called 19 deltas, cavalry scouts. These are the guys going out in Humvees and Bradleys and even riding helicopters. And oh, look, there's FASA, I can blow that up. But all this other stuff to get real-time eyes on target reconnaissance of either objectives or threats. With all of the stuff we have now, all of the reconnaissance, all of the everything we have available, all the tools in the arsenal of reconnaissance and scouts, you still need men and women physically on site, seeing the target, and either watching it, figuring out what it's doing, or forcing it to do what you want, which in Battletech, as you well know, you play a lot of vehicles, you play light mechs, you've been in Battletech a long time. That's what reconnaissance vehicles and reconnaissance mechs in Battletech are for. So, yeah, there's more to it than rule of cool. And also, and another in-universe argument is, remember, Battletech, the eras that we play in from the Star League on, this is the era that is after the quote-unquote Age of War in this universe, when interstellar, interplanetary campaigns, small and large, were fought with basically the same technology, more or less, despite, fusion reactors and lasers and things were available. But tanks, armored vehicles, conventional aircraft, nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons like we have now were being used in planetary assaults, invasions, and defenses, and scorched earth retreats, and things like that. And electronics do not like an NBC environment. electromagnetic pulses tend to make electronics very sleepy.
This is Kilo 2-4.
Uh,
We're down.
NBC, some of the stuff that is used rapidly corrodes and degrades electronic equipment. It's not just harmful to organic materials and people, it's also harmful to the metals used in some cases. I can't remember specifics. I'm just remembering things in training that were talked about when we went through this stuff. There's a reason you have specifically shielded and modified vehicles to use in an NBC environment. So UAVs, drones, reconnaissance, light aircraft, and satellites in an environment like that, you could make the argument that by the time the battle mech came along, all of this electronic surveillance that we are so enamored of in the 21st century had been proven to be far too vulnerable on a future battlefield. With all of the things that were going on, it might have just been too easy to knock it out, render it useless, or even deceive it with countermeasures to where they had gone back to eyes on target. They'd gone back to a traditional cavalry doctrine as opposed to the modern idea of reconnaissance and spying. So, looking at it from that perspective, that could very well be a reason some of the first things we saw developed after the Mackie were things like the Griffin, which is a light, fast-moving, agile reconnaissance and scout mech for getting out, finding, and fixing your target so your heavier assets can decide what they're going to do. Attack, flank, engage, withdraw, whatever they need to do. So, look at it from that perspective. There is all kinds of in-universe reasons we still have these light assets on such a technologically advanced battlefield. Rule of cool, yes. But useful, practical, and realistic,
one of the MechWarriors you
also
just
still
met
yes.
is Damon Squire. Father assigned him to get me to safety after the palace was attacked, and he's been fighting with us ever since. The survivors in his lance won't be able to fight for some time, but he wants to get back into the action.
You're suggesting he should join my team?
He could help. He knows city fighting, and he knows the capital.
I'd like to talk to him.
Easily done. Hold on.
Ian Dressari? Captain Squire, sir. I want to thank you for getting us out of there. The streets are getting a little rough.
I've noticed. And you're welcome, Captain. I understand you'd like to join my lance.
Sir, I served Joanna since this all started, and before that in your father's forces. I just want a chance to fight for the Dressaris, sir. I'm rated in all weight classes, and I'm solid with sensor operations in urban environments and night fighting. I think I could pull my weight.
All right, Captain. Consider yourself on board.
Thank you, sir. I'll speak with your sister and arrange transfer.
Ian, we think we have a way for you to get at that armory. The Resistance will stage an attack on the eastern perimeter of the palace, opposite from the armory. If we hit it with a large enough force, Roland will think we're beginning a direct assault, and he'll direct his forces away from the armory. He won't leave the position completely unguarded, but if we make our attack look real, he'll throw almost everything he has against it.
Can you afford that kind of action? If Roland directs his remaining forces...
We only have to keep it up long enough to make it look real. Once he pulls his defenses away from the armory, we can start to withdraw. I won't mislead you. We'll take losses. We can only do this once.
Does Elise agree with the plan?
She does. She agrees that the armory represents our best chance to end this quickly, before more people die.
When could you be ready to strike?
Very
Sorry, I
soon.
was just
Speed is
looking at
critical.
something
If
one
you
of my
agree, we'll start preparing
reenactors sent me.
immediately.
If it'll end this quickly, let's make it happen.
We'll get ready. Wish me luck.
Luck.
All right. So again, after having said all that, I made my point, said what I wanted to say. I'm not like arguing with Tex on that. I agree with him in principle. Yeah, he's not wrong at all. He's right. But if you look at it from an in-universe perspective, which I usually try to do with things like this, yeah, they still make sense. They still have a purpose. They're still practical and applicable. It's just, you know, most of the light mechs are admittedly useless for anything other than scouting and reconnaissance. So it's easy to say, yeah, it's rule of cool. You just have to have light mechs running around. But they're not useless. They're not stupid. The doctrine that they use is not made up out of nowhere, pulled out of somebody at Fass's ass back in the day. It makes sense, and there are in-universe reasons that it makes sense. But if you don't look at it that way, don't think of it that way. Just like for all the times that over the years they've said, well, this weapon makes the tank impractical. Well, when the tank came out, they said cavalry was impractical. It's still around. Uh, that anytime you have a doctrine or weapon system or class of warfare, I guess you could put it, that has been proven for a long time, and tanks and recon vehicles and things like that by the time of BattleTech, they've been around for centuries, in some cases, well, over a millennia now. So, they are ingrained in the way wars are fought. They're ingrained in the way people are trained. They're ingrained in the military-industrial complex. Just because something new and better comes along, you don't necessarily shelve the old thing. You just find a new way to use it or adapt it to the new weapon system. So, despite, armored vehicles and tanks are definitely still a thing in BattleTech, but you adapt the cavalry doctrine to battle mechs. So you have fast movers, light hitters, skirmishers, things like that, just like you do nowadays.
Castro's deployed an entire company of light and medium mechs in defense of the grounds.
Then you will also have, if you think about too, a good way to put that is the progression of the weapon systems. Initially it was machine guns have made cavalry anachronistic and useless because the machine gun makes the battlefield too deadly. Horses can't survive, which is true. Just look at any of the major battles of the Western Front and stuff where they tried to use cavalry on the Western Front, and for the most part, yeah, they're right. The cavalry takes way too many losses against modern weaponry to be effective. But then, eventually, after the war, they look at cavalry and say, oh, well, we can mount them on fast-moving armored vehicles, or even unarmored fast-moving vehicles like Jeeps and Kugelwagons and things like that. Motorcycles, even. They can still do their job. They can still do it just as they have always done it. They're just doing it on a different mount. Conversely, then you have, well, all of these light-moving, fast assets. When the technology catches up, tanks can do the job they're doing. We don't need all these light, unarmored, fast-moving assets that can't really fight in the open when the tanks can do their job. Well, along comes Vietnam, and guess what? When you're in an environment where, say, in this case, the M48 Patton can't operate properly in the desert, in the humidity, and the dampness and the mud and the muck and everything else, all of a sudden things like the M113, as ridiculous as they all of a sudden have a use on the battlefield again. We find we need things like that. So after Vietnam, you have new weapons, new things developed. That doctrine is still around, even in the nuclear era. And then you get, oh, well, we have the Bradley. We don't need all of these wheeled vehicles. We have a light tracked vehicle that can do the job. We don't need all this wheeled stuff that can't fight. Well, especially if, talking to Tex on this one, if he happens to ever hear this, you well know what is up with Bradley. Not a useless weapon, not a, pointless waste of something that we have and can never use. I've known quite a few guys who went to war on Bradleys. They're still alive. They brought them home. It's it's not a useless death trap. However, it is not the answer to everything that the Army thought it would be in the 80s and early 90s. So I guess we do need wheeled vehicles. You start seeing the up-armored Humvees, and you start seeing things like MRAPs and things like that. And then that evolves into the Striker, which I'm not a fan of the Striker, but I did not serve at the time it's in. I'm just seeing it from the outside. Not a fan of it, not saying, but at the same time, I'm not saying it's useless or dumb, just not something I really appreciate. Oh, well, we have this fast moving thing. We don't, we, we have this fast moving thing that can get in and do these jobs. We don't need tanks now. Well, oh wait, the Strikers don't really have the firepower. We need tanks. So, uh, we still kind of want to get rid of tanks. So let's put a 105 auto gun on the roof of a Striker. Which I'm convinced somebody in the Pentagon just, was looking through an old book and saw an SDKFC 234-4 and said, no, I want that, but new. So yeah, now we have that stuff. And at the same time, we're now up to, what is it, the M1A2 SEP V3 Tusk? So we have all of these new things come along, and every time a new thing comes along, people say the old thing is dead. And it never really is. It just has to adapt itself and either prove that it's still capable of doing what it used to do, or adapt to use new weapons and technology to do what it used to do. But it doesn't go away. The MLRS did not render conventional tube cannon obsolete. The tank did not render cavalry obsolete, despite what people said going into the 1960s and 70s. The guided air-to-air missile did not make guns on fighter planes useless and obsolete. All these things exist for a reason. They have a purpose on the battlefield, and sometimes new technology not only doesn't eliminate that old purpose, it gives it a new purpose. So, back to the original point, all of those things that we have now that you would think make reconnaissance obsolete, they do not. All of these things that you would think in the future would make light mechs useless death traps, except for the fact that people like to run really fast around the battlefield in a mech, they're not. You need light mechs. Steiner Scout Squad meme be damned, which I hate. But yeah, every one of these things that exists, and you could say the same for any sci-fi universe. I'm not just defending BattleTech on that. All of these things to us that look at them, we look at them and say, that's dumb. Why would they do that? In a lot of cases, the people that came up with these things, I'm not saying universally, but a lot of cases, actually put real thought into it and said, well, this thing would have a role and a purpose in this future or alternate history or sci-fi or fantasy setting. And that's why it exists. It's not just somebody drew something in a book one day and said, I want that in the game, and they put it in for absolutely no reason. For the most part. I mean, other than the only thing I can really say that exists for in BattleTech is the Royal Division mechs from the Star League stuff that, nobody'd ever heard of until a certain TRO came out when they were trying to make, Star League vintage, original, old school chassis suddenly relevant in the Clan War era again. Look, they had all these old versions of them that nobody'd ever heard of and everybody forgot about that could compete with the Clan stuff. We just all forgot all about it. Here it is again. Have fun.
Target destroyed.
Target destroyed. Target down.
So anyway, having gone on that long diatribe, which probably didn't go anywhere, it makes me sound like an idiot, but we're back to where we were. This, I believe, is the last or next to last mission before we get to the where it turns from canon to not canon. I will explain that more when it gets into it, and I don't want to get into it now if it's not the next mission like I think it is. Although looking at the time elapsed on this one, I think it's the next mission, but I'm not positive. It's been a while since I played this. I just haven't been able to do the audio for it. I just have not had the time. I don't live alone. My retired father lives with me, and if he's home with the TV turned up because he's deaf as a rock, I can't do the recordings without all kinds of background noise. So I have to do it on a day off when he's not here, which is like a 2-hour window on a Saturday every other week. fighting the Steiners, they have more bushwhackers running around, but whatever. Is that even in this game, or is that in the, one of the
Target
expansions for it? I
destroyed.
forget. Can't remember if that's in the base
Attack
game.
my target.
Roger. Copy. Roger.
Oh, another thing that I wanted to mention from the Kickstarter. One of the things that I was looking forward to originally was they being mercenaries. They had this stuff that was Iridani Lighthorse that you could get, which is my favorite mercenary group.
Nav point Alpha.
And I was looking like, oh, I want to get that for the swag. I want to get that, or oh boy, that's included in the tier thing. Da 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 da. And then they said this gigantic poster for the ELH that they were going to be sending. They weren't sending it rolled, they were sending it folded. So, what's the point of... Yeah, it's going to have all these crease marks and everything in it. It's going to look like shit. I want something nice that I can frame and put on a wall. Not something that looks worse than something I could have picked up at GameStop. And then they also, well, we're going to have patches and all this other stuff. And I looked at what you pay for that. And I'm like, for less than that, I can get the exact same thing off of Etsy and I don't have to wait a year for it. So, sorry. Also, not happening. Ooh, we got a Mad Cat Mark II.
I'm not sure what to make of this, young Duke.
Yep, this
Maybe
is
you
where
know
it
more than
diverts.
I. The salvage team brought it in. It's clearly a clan Omnimech. Shares some parts and resembles a Mad Cat. But it's 90 tons. Still, looks fast. It mounts a pair of Gauss rifles as principal armament, along with missile packs. I can't say what it's capable of, but looks like cutting-edge clan technology. Should be able to stand toe-to-toe with anything in its class. I've uploaded the specification data, and if you decide to use it, I'll have it ready for you.
Sir, I have an incoming message from your cousin William. It's safe if you want to respond.
Patch it through.
How are you doing, cousin? Had enough?
I'm almost there.
And you still have far to go. And if you get here, consider what will be waiting for you and how much it will have cost you just to fail in the end.
Other than shoring up your courage, do you have any reason for calling me?
Yes, to propose an alternative. I was wrong to grab all of the power for myself. I see that now. You're entitled to your share. Put a stop to all this and you can have it, Ian. Steiner can set you up on your own world. They'd do that. Or you could even share power here. With conditions.
Goodbye, William.
Don't walk away from this, Ian. You can't win. But you've earned Roland's respect. If you won't negotiate, think. Joanna might. You don't have to die.
Goodbye, William.
Ian, we...
That was more difficult than I expected. I'm sorry, sir, but if the HQ wasn't so important to our assault, I'm not sure it would have been worth it.
Agreed.
We can beat Steiner. We can take the city, but I'm not sure there'll be much left by the time we do. The fighting's much bloodier than anyone expected. Roland's got forces deployed everywhere, elite units. The infantry's taking terrible losses, going block by block. At this point, I think we're going to need that armory, and an assault on the palace. Or we may have to withdraw, and the conflict could drag on for months.
No. I'd rather leave Kentaris to Roland than have it destroyed. We'll assault the palace and end this. One way or another.
I understand. All right, sir. We're ready to go for the armory. The resistance is moving into position. They'll start their attack any moment. Carl was familiar with the area and will be overseeing the salvage operation, so he wanted to talk to you while we get set up.
Well, young Duke, almost time for us both to earn our pay. I oversaw this armory under your father for many years. I regret it could not save him, but he would be glad to know it will serve his son and his world. We expect that Steiner will leave a skeleton guard close to the palace, but we cannot be sure what you'll be up against. It depends on how your sister does with her distraction. There were several entrances to the armory. You'll have to find one.
Ian, Carl, you have to move out immediately. The resistance was ambushed. They're being wiped out. There's no time. You have to go now.
What? What happened?
We're not sure. Roland's forces cut off the retreat somehow. They won't last long. You have to move out immediately or we'll lose our chance at the armory.
Wait, where's Joanna?
And they needed her to coordinate. She must be in one of the command vehicles. She's cut off. I'm sorry, Ian.
We have to get her out.
We do, and we've lost our shot at the armory.
Even if she doesn't die in combat and they capture her, they will kill her. We cannot let that happen.
We don't have any choice, Carl. We can't regroup and try again. The only way to win now
is to let Lady Dresseri die? Ian, we can take the palace without that armory. It's just equipment.
Equipment that gives us a fighting chance against the Palace Guard. Ian, your sister would want you to end this at any cost. Getting that equipment gives you the best chance of doing that.
I've seen you fight, young Duke. Please, we can stage the assault with what we have. You don't have to sacrifice your sister.
We're running out of time, Ian. Either way, I'll upload what I have on both locations. Whatever you do, you had better do it fast. Sir, I have an urgent comm for you.
Put it through.
You really shouldn't talk right now.
I need to talk to my brother. Ian, are you there?
I'm right here.
We've been hit pretty bad. It's not important. We made it to the armory. You're going to take back the castle.
Joanna...
Do what you came back for. Father always said you'd be a man of honor. He was so proud of that. Of you. I just wish he could see how you proved him right. I have. Take back his castle. Assume his throne, Ian. Be the leader I know you can be.
Ma'am, you have to rest. Save your strength.
I'll see you soon, brother.
Let me speak to someone in charge.
Major Gerard? Gerard here.
There's no way the Resistance can continue to stand up to what they're throwing at you. We've lost the city. Get my sister to safety and prepare to withdraw.
Negative. We're not beaten yet. I still think we have a chance.
Did you hear me, Major? Disengage and withdraw!
Yes, sir. Consider it done, sir.
Major Rathburn.
Yes, sir.
Coordinate with the rest of the Resistance. Have them begin withdrawal from the capital.
Yes, sir.
Then, get me the uploads on the palace. I need to plan our attack. Hopefully, the withdrawal will lull Roland into relaxing the perimeter guard. Enough.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now that that's finally over. This is where it diverts, and what I go with here, the mission I go with, is the one that leads to the canon ending. I like the other one better, but then following up and playing the Black Knight Legion expansion, which goes off of the canon ending, makes no sense, so I went with what, quote-unquote, was supposed to happen. Basically, if you go with the not rescuing the sister one, you end up the Duke, which is what it is going forward, real quote-unquote BattleTech. So I went with that. I'm not a fan of it, and I think I goof up here and put the wrong ammo on each one. But anyway, see if I can catch it. I think it's better off having her do it, but the games going forward don't go off that ending. So to make it make sense, I went with the canon version. Yeah, I did put the wrong ammo load on there. I didn't catch it. Alright, anyway, not my mech. I'm not real worried about it. And also, in doing that, your tech, Carl, there, decides that you're no better than William and the Steiners, so he deserts you. And in the expansion, the Black Knight Legion, he is part of the resistance movement to Ian that Steiner sends support for.
Any word on my sister?
So,
Negative, Omega.
yeah,
It's not looking good. I got a message from Damon Squire. He's gone AWOL. He's taken one of the mechs and is headed for your sister's unit.
I guess he had to try. Maybe he'll pull off a miracle. We're in position. Go ahead with TAC upload.
I've tagged the 3 armory buildings as nav Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. have to scout each location and find an entrance. Once you do, you'll need to blow the doors. They're armored, so it may take a little punch.
What about hostiles?
We have no data. We assume Roland won't have pulled all his units out. You'll have to clear the area before we can conduct salvage.
Roger, we'll start
There we go. You launch right into a fight right immediately in this one.
Did you think no one had found your father's armory?
You also get to kill one of your opponents. I can't remember if it's this one or the next one, but coming up you get to take out one of the Steiners that have been a thorn in your side for this. Might be the next. I think there's one more city mission before the palace. Again, I haven't played this in, this has been well over a month, so I can't remember. I think it's actually been 2 months since I did this. I'm way behind on doing voice. And again, I hope what I said in the last one made sense, because I was going off the top of my head. I didn't have like stuff written down, going off like memory for comparisons and stuff. But yeah, it does make sense. It's not just rule of cool stompy robot thing with, you know, if you accept the fact that these things exist and have been accepted as the main weapons of the future, it would make sense that they would be adapted into other roles that you would need, and it would also make sense given the limitations of technology and equipment that those roles would still exist. 99% of the time, I agree with what Tex has to say about the in-universe stuff. We tend to look at things a lot the same way. That's one reason I like the Black Pants Legion podcast and Tex's Battletech videos. But every once in a while, he does say something that I have to go, yeah, that I don't agree with, and I feel the need to say something about it. Not at all like trying to start an argument or a feud with him. I love the guy and his content. But people look at things differently, and some people see things differently, even if they're looking at, you know, knowing what he does for a living and that he's a historian and stuff. You know, I'm sure he knows all of those things I said, but he still came to a different conclusion. That's, you know, what happens with historians and analysts and things. Two people can look at the exact same set of information and references and see them very differently. It's the way of the world. And I will also, just as I mentioned, having been a tanker, I am not a combat vet. I was out before 9/11 and could not get back in, flunked the physical when I tried to get back in after 9/11. So I was in when absolutely nothing was going on. Never saw combat or action, anything like that. Just ever since then, I have been somebody who, before and after, very much loves cavalry and armor. That's why I went into it. And I tend to look at that specific area of the history. So looking at Battletech from that point of view, it makes sense to me why some things are the way they are. You know, even with the unit designations, with things being referred to as Lancers and Uhlans, or Uhlans, however you want to pronounce it, and Hussars and Dragoons and all this other stuff, you know, with the heritage and history and how people love it, especially some of the regions of Battletech, what became the successor states and stuff, having had cultural background from various parts of the world, because various parts of the Inner Sphere in the expansion era of the Age of War tended to be settled by people from a general area of Earth. So, you know, they would have tried to hold on to their history and heritage. That's why you see Blackwatch is still a thing in the Star League and things like that. We love our heritage and history, and there are things that the military does not like to let go of. Its history and heritage being one of them. Look at, you know, the current British Army still having tank units that are designated SSRs and Lancers and things like that, you know, because they're descended from those original units. I can see them holding on to the doctrines and the philosophies and stuff from old Terran militaries, even with the new weapons and equipment, because humanity doesn't like new things. We say we do, but we always complain about them when they come along and push into the old stuff. So I can see that For as much as humanity loves progress and developing new things, we also tend to not like it and fear it and try to hold on to what is familiar.
This one's empty.
And if you want to know what I was referring to talking about, if you're not real familiar with Battletech or you haven't looked into the history of Battletech before the eras that we tend to play in, I'll put a link down below to his channel. I'll also link Tex's Black Pants Legion stuff if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about there. But another channel by Sven Vanderplank, who I've mentioned before, he does excellent, excellent deep dive vids about the history of the setting, not so much the equipment technology, but the military history, even the political history, and the personalities that made the BattleTech universe we're familiar with, right from source books and things like that. And he does them like their history. He doesn't say, this is what the books say, and da-da-da-da-da. He does it like he's somebody in the 31st century doing a historical documentary on YouTube, which I really like the way he does his stuff. They're very, very well done. So I'll put a link below. He has videos about the Age of War, about the Reunification Wars, the Golden Era of Star League, and he's now doing the Amaris, however you want to pronounce it. I always said it Amaris, but now everybody I see on YouTube is saying it Amaris, so I was wrong, but it's ingrained into my head. And he's doing all of that now, so if you liked Tex's videos about the Amaris Civil War and the Star League resistance and taking back Terra and all of that, figure that, but even more in depth and about 4 times as long altogether. Maybe even 5 or 6 times as long altogether. Sven goes really in depth with this stuff. And it is not boring when he does it. It is like watching professionally done military history documentaries. So both of them are great. I highly recommend both of the channels. I will put links to them below so you can see what I'm talking about. Definitely go give them a look, check them out, give them a subscribe, and help them out.
Destroyed.
Strike 2. Nothing here.
Another lesson, young Dressari. Once you've bloodied your opponent, send in fresh troops to finish him off. Ian, we've got a second lance inbound on your position.
Even though it said I already blew the doors off there, just me being me, I had to get it to where it visually actually was blown off. I can't help it.
Roger.
Roger.
Roger. One more lesson, young Dressari. Never send a boy to do a woman's job. Ian, I've got a mech powering up right on top of your position.
Okay, yeah, this is the one where you defeat Castro. Okay. Yeah, if you didn't catch what I was talking about in the mech lab when I was setting up the Madcat Mark II there, I gave one of the 2 AC-5s and put in the arm twice the ammo of the other, so I goofed. I try not to do it so one weapon runs out before another one, but I done goofed. Another one I'll put a link to down below. If you want to know more about the weapons and the mechs and the vehicles and the equipment and stuff, Big Red 40K does a very, very good series on the weapons. Nowhere near as in-depth as the Black Pants Legion stuff, but still very good. I'll put a link to his channel down below too.
Target destroyed.
he also quite regularly does live streams that are open for everybody. So if you watch his videos and you have a question on something that he doesn't, either he doesn't explain something you were curious about, or you've just got a question on something, you can go to his live streams and ask him about it, and he will answer. Might take a minute to get to it because sometimes the stream is a little swamped with questions and comments. But if he sees it and he catches attention, he will answer you. He will answer your question and clear it up for you. Alright, so into this one, we're now getting into the end game here, I believe. Daisy, Novacat, and Thor. Nothing I can really use going forward.
I recorded this while you were
Gonzalez's gun
securing
rate, I
the
think it was,
armory.
is maxed out. Here you go.
Wanted you to see it. I recorded this while you were securing the armory. I wanted you to see it.
People of Kentares, for too long the peaceful rule of Duke William has been disrupted by terrorist uprisings. Now this can finally end. Our military forces have repelled an attack against the royal palace, inflicting crippling losses on the forces that have been causing so much destruction and death. But more significant, one of the key leaders of this uprising, Joanna Dressari, was captured during the conflict. In accordance with the laws which protect us all, she was pronounced guilty of treason against Kentares and executed by firing squad. With the death of their chief antagonist, it is hoped that the rebels who survived the battle will recognize the futility of their struggle and the damage they have caused to Kentares. Duke William's government will take whatever steps necessary to bring an end to this conflict. Thank you, and good night.
That is all, young Duke. Now only you and William survive the family of Dressari. I had thought you were different than he, but both of you merely wished to rule, even if it meant standing by while your family was killed by Steiner. I hope your weapons serve you well, for I no longer will.
Ian, I'm sorry. I know you would have saved your sister if you could. But ending Roland's tyranny was her greatest dream. She would have gladly given anything to make it possible. If the situation were reversed, she would have made the same decision. The people will always have first concern. And with the weapons in that armory, will greatly increase our chances of ending the fighting quickly. We've suffered so many losses, but we've always concentrated on freeing Kentaris. Now we can, just one fight left. I'll upload the tactical overview of the palace grounds. Luck, sir.
Luck.
And here we go. It took me 2 tries again, so it might be a little blurpy. One of the Mad Cat Mark IIs that you run into, the Gauss rifles, cored me, so I had to go through and do it again. No, it doesn't look like it had any issues. So here we are, we're in the final mission, the end game.
When your sister attacked, Roland had his remaining dropship touch down near the palace. I think we can assume he'll be on that dropship soon after you start your attack. You can't let it escape. I set up the palace grounds entrance as Nav Alpha. Just before your attack, a commando team will hit palace turret control based on information recovered at University Intel HQ. The turret should be down for approximately 30 minutes. Once you enter the palace grounds, 2 lancers of Roland's elite guard will be your main problem. Your targets are the control facility at Beta, which will take the turrets down permanently.
At the end of this, when I originally did it, I was going to let the credits run. By the time I stopped it, the credits were running for believe it was 20 minutes. So I ended up not doing that. I wanted to let the credits run to see everybody that was involved in it, like the voice actors and the actors and things like that, but
Sensors
I ended up
online.
not.
Weapons systems online. All
I
functioning
do, however,
systems
have the little
nominal.
mini movie at the end, which I will be commenting on because it's just as crappy as the rest of the acting in this. And I won't let me amend that. I won't say the acting, the writing for the mini movies. Like, they can only work with what they've got, and it's just so hokey. I'm sorry, it's just goofy. So stereotypical. Unoriginal, whatever you want to call it. Pretty good in purple. No, the cat's not a bad looking neck. Not one of my favorites, but it's a good looking neck.
Attack my target.
Roger. Roger. Roger.
Enemy detected.
Target destroyed.
Target
is terminated.
That's a kill.
Take out designated target.
Copy.
Roger.
Copy. Over.
Nav point data reached.
Turret control facility destroyed.
Target destroyed.
Target is terminated.
Target dead.
Warning. Damage critical.
Omega lead respond. Omega lead please
Oh,
respond.
there it was. I did get killed here.
Omega
Yeah.
support. Omega
Alright,
lead
so
is
I
down.
think
Repeat.
I
Omega
restarted
lead
it.
is
So you get to
down.
see what happened. I didn't cut it out. I restarted it. Oh well, you know what? I'll leave it in. Just to
Police,
show you,
we're
it
at the wall,
happens.
just outside the palace grounds.
I'm not
Roger,
kidding.
Omega.
I do have to
When your
redo
sister
some of these
attacked,
several times.
Roland had his remaining dropship
I
touch
would have
down near the
sworn I
palace.
cut that out,
I
but
think
oh
we
well.
can assume he'll be on that dropship soon after you start your attack. You can't let it escape. I've set up the palace grounds entrance as Nav Alpha. Just before your attack, a commando team will hit palace turret control based on information recovered at University Intel HQ. The turret should be down for approximately 30 minutes.
Here we go.
Once you enter the palace grounds, 2 lancers of Roland's elite guard will be your main problem. Your targets are the control
It's deja
facility
vu
in
all
Beta,
over again.
which will take the turrets down permanently, and Roland's dropship. When both are destroyed, we can send in troops to palace.
Roger. I've got both targets in my nav.
Good luck, Ian. When your fight is over, Kentaurus will finally be free.
Attack my target.
When it's over, invite me to the coronation.
Roger.
Snake 4 to control. Turrets are down. They're all yours, people.
Sensors online. Weapons systems online. All functioning systems nominal.
Roger.
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 Thank you for all you've done, Elise.
I have the strangest sense of been here and done this before. I can't.
Here they come.
Yeah, again, apologies for that. I would have sworn I cut that out, but at this point, it's been so long since I did this, or that I've been waiting to get this put up. I'm just want to get it done. We'll leave it. There's no mistakes, just happy with it. Oh, and another little in-universe thing to point out. In this and other games, when you see the mechs are overheating like that, I always thought it was just a little visual thing. I actually come across reading an in-universe thing. The black smoke that you see coming out of the mechs when they start overheating and when they overheat and shut down, that is actually the myomer muscles overheating, degrading, and in some cases igniting from the heat inside. The muscles, these don't use like servos and pulleys and gears to move. They use artificial muscle fibers called myomers that they are very, very vulnerable to heat, which I already knew, but I hadn't, made the connection that that's what you were seeing. It says right in one of the canon in-universe things explaining how the technology and equipment works on battle mechs, that when the mechs are overheating and especially running the red line of shutting down, many times you will see black smoke begin coming out of the joints and the structures, and especially holes in the armor, as the myomer begins to smolder and in some cases actually burn. And that's also why the mechs slow down, overheat, and become sluggish, is when they get above a certain temperature, the myomer still works, but it loses efficiency. So what you're seeing is the degrading of the actual equipment used to power them. If it shuts down and cools down and enough damage was not done to destroy the myomers, it will recover and it will get back to more or less full function. But when it's overheating, the myomer loses effectiveness and actually can, excuse me, ignite and burn and destroy the mech's ability to move from the inside, which is one of the hazards of overheating. I always thought of them just overheating and exploding from the ammo detonating, but they will actually lose basically all their muscle mass and not be able to move or function, and you effectively kill the mech if you force it to overheat enough. That's more of a tabletop than in these games it does really happen. But that's a neat little thing that I never knew till recently. Makes sense. I just never knew it. You learn something all the time. I've been into this game in this universe for 30 years, and you still learn things.
Target destroyed.
Target destroyed.
That's a kill.
Take out designated target.
Roger.
Roger.
Moving. Over.
About the generators so I don't get cored again. Move it. There we go. It's also one reason you'll see I put so many frickin' heat sinks on these assault mechs is I like to be able to alpha strike and do as much damage as quickly as I can, so I don't shut down like my Atlas there just did.
Turret control facility destroyed.
managed to find a repair facility. I can't remember for sure. Yep, there they are. So I managed to get myself repaired before I move on here. You also see, I did not know how the heck to shut my mech down. That's what I'm looking up. Because I didn't have anything hot slaved to it. So there we go. Now I can shut down. P for power.
Repairs completed.
Made it all the way to the end of the campaign before I had to set that key up. Literally the end of the campaign. This is the last mission.
Copy.
Try to set them to repair, but I don't think they actually do. Sometimes the AI is a little stupid for your lance mates in this. Nowhere near as bad as MechWarrior 2 was, but still pretty bad sometimes. MechWarrior 2, sometimes you're better off just running the mission by yourself because your lance mates were more of a hindrance than a help.
There's Roland's dropship.
One deadly package.
Oh, the family mausoleum. Hi, Dad.
Take out designated target.
Roger.
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 Mr. Asari, end your attack. You can have Williams place on the throne.
So we'll stop and visit the family in the middle of the battle here. In case you can't figure out by Carl's reaction, your sister's going to be going in there too because she died. I can't remember if they say it explicitly or just imply it by what's going on with the other characters, but she died.
Target destroyed.
You're the last of the family
Target
left.
dead.
For the time being.
Attack my target.
Alright, so got the mech, or the dropship.
Mr. Asarian, let me leave, and I promise you can roll without my intervention.
See the firepower of this thing, Chad. That's what I was talking about in the HBS Battletech game. Is those dropships, when you, a couple of times when you go into whole areas full of them, they should have absolutely ripped you apart. We were only in heavy or medium mechs depending on the mission. And it takes all of us to take this guy out. He does serious damage to us in the meantime. 3 or 4 of them sitting together should have been able to take us completely dead.
It's over. They're
There
gone.
we go, he's dead.
Woo, we won.
Elise, we did it. The palace defenses are destroyed.
Yes, you did it.
So
We'll
much for
contact
Lord
the
Roland.
resistance and we can arrange to secure the palace. There'll be a few Steiner holdouts, but not long after they find out Roland's dead. Kentaurus
In
is
the
free.
immortal words of Billy Mays, but wait, there's
There are
more!
repair bays on the grounds. I've designated them Nav Delta, Epsilon, and Theta. You should head there and make any needed repairs. I'll start contacting ground forces and arrange to secure the grounds. Support? Let's get rescue underway.
I'll head for Delta. There should be room for additional mechs in the other bays. Everyone should get fixed up.
Roger. Checking into Theta. I'll see you soon.
Oh, you thought you were done?
Forgetting something,
Sorry, cousin.
William.
I had a pretty comfortable arrangement here, Ian. Then you came and screwed it up. Time to pay the piper, cousin.
Where are you, William?
Yeah, there's an awful lot of clan assault mechs on this world in the Federated Suns.
I had in mind. You never could beat me, Ian. You fought so hard for this planet. Now you can be buried on it.
And I say the hell with it since I'm not on any kind of time restraint. Let's go repair and rearm just to be safe. He's a ways away. I love all these people, as I've said before, just running around, the little
Nav
sprites of
point
people just
Delta
running. Oh my
reached.
god, there's a 100-ton battle mech coming. Let me
Time for
run
you to do what
awkwardly
your
in the
father
open.
did, what your uncle did.
Any
Die
one of
and
his
get out of
weapons can
my way.
vaporize me in one shot. Let's just give him the opportunity.
Shutting down. Initiating repairs. Repairs completed.
There he is. All this cousin on cousin violence. Can't we all just get along? Actually, all this cousin on cousin action. What is this? On every shot is going into my center person.
Ian, are you there? Something was jamming communications. I couldn't reach anyone. What happened?
Nothing. Nothing significant, Major. Just a bad element. I'll need a little more time for repairs.
And now we get to the ridiculous cutscene ending
The
here.
Resistance is returning to the palace. They'll arrive in a few hours. I'll meet you there.
They did it, didn't they? The People's Council confirmed you as Duke.
In case you
Everything
couldn't
else
already tell, he's nailing the key off
Yes.
with blonde, because, you know, why not?
I wanted to see you all before I get swept away in affairs of state.
Your Grace.
No, Ian.
No, Your Grace. This is the hand that drove Steiner from Cantaris. You are now Lord Dressar.
You know what he was fighting for.
You won.
And lost. There were too many sacrifices. Too many hard decisions I wish I'd made differently.
Your father would have understood the choices you made.
I know. I'm just not sure I do. Maybe my father was right. Maybe I don't belong on the throne. Steiner still dominates the Commonwealth. They have to be driven out.
We'll take care of that. You take care of Cantaris.
I'll do my best. Fortunately, I don't lack for good advice.
You're a worthy successor to your father's throne. Peter and Joanna both saw that.
Before he goes out to meet his people, I say we propose a toast to our new Duke. To Duke Ian.
The Duke, to the Duke.
To Cantaris, my friends, and my family.
And there we go. That's the end of this. So, you won back Cantaris 4 for your family. Everything's wonderful. Huzzah! We're at the end. So, as I say, probably in a few weeks I'll start in on the Black Knight Legion. It's different. It's definitely different, but it continues the story, so we'll go with it. We'll see you on the next one. If you've been watching these, I thank you very much for the clicks and the support. Please give me a like and subscribe if you get the chance. It's greatly appreciated. And check out the links below for the videos and channels I mentioned. Give them some love too if you don't already. And we will see you on the next one. Have a good day. Thank you very much, and we will see y'all later. Have a good one. Bye.